The universe just shattered the rules we thought were unbreakable. At precisely 0800 universe, line 2 on March 2, 2026, NASA's Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex detected something that defies every known law of physics. An interstellar object known as 3-2 Atlas suddenly erupted across the radar like a cosmic alarm, producing a spike so extreme it had essentially zero chance of being a natural occurrence. In a mere 14 seconds, a 33-billion-ton mountain of rock didn't just fracture, it split into exactly 50 symmetrical fragments. And these pieces didn't drift randomly into the void, as we would expect. Instead, they formed a rigid, geometric structure so precise it defies all known principles of entropy. This isn't just a question of composition anymore. Each fragment, the size of city blocks, began a coordinated descent toward every major continent on Earth. In classical mechanics, we understand how comets like Shoemaker-Levy 9 fragment under tidal forces. They break into chaotic, irregular pieces, a trail of cosmic shrapnel following unpredictable paths. It's messy, it's natural, it's disorder. But 3-2 Atlas has inverted that logic. Its fragments didn't scatter, they accelerated, synchronized, and maintained a rigid grid at 100,000 miles per hour. Nature simply doesn't operate with this level of precision. Theoretical simulations suggest that to achieve such coordination, each fragment must have its own propulsion system and a communication network akin to quantum entanglement. In quantum physics, entangled particles share information instantaneously across any distance. Applied at this scale, this suggests a civilization capable of controlling not just objects, but entire interstellar formations, a Type 2 civilization operating with entangled navigation. As these fragments crossed the 240 million kilometer mark from Earth, the James Webb Space Telescope revealed something even more impossible. All 50 pieces are identical in mass, shape, and thermal signature. Natural fragmentation produces a spectrum of sizes and velocities, but here, every fragment is a perfect clone. This points not to geology, but to technology, a manufactured phenomenon. The fragments are not just falling, they're calculating their trajectories, moving without producing heat, suggesting advanced propulsion methods like magnetic sailing or gravitational manipulation. Every observation deepens the mystery. Radar logs show low-frequency gravitational ripples emanating from these fragments. Typically, gravitational waves arise from massive cosmic collisions, not from city block-sized objects. To create detectable ripples, these fragments must be extraordinarily dense, perhaps composed of degenerate matter or metallic hydrogen. They're not simply flying, they're locked into the geometry of spacetime itself, moving as a single coherent system with millimeter-level precision. And then the geopolitical shock wave hit. These 50 fragments aren't targeting one impact point, they're evenly distributed across all continents. Probability suggests that such uniformity could not be accidental. This is no random space rock. This is a calculated planetary survey, a Type 3 civilization maneuver in motion. And just before the split, the lead fragment, Probe Alpha, transmitted a high-bandwidth burst directly to the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory in Antarctica, bypassing satellites and radio systems. It was speaking directly to the most sensitive scientific instrument on Earth. The countdown has begun. These interstellar fragments are no longer anomalies, they are coordinated, intentional arrivals. And humanity is just beginning to understand the scale of what's descending toward us. As the 50 fragments crossed Mars' orbit, their formation remained flawless. They accelerated without a trace of thermal signature, an impossibility under classical physics. Each fragment behaved like a single organism, responding in perfect sync. The music of the spheres had been replaced by a mechanical symphony, a rhythm dictated not by chance, but by precision engineering beyond our comprehension. We were no longer witnessing a natural event. We were observing a forensic study of an interstellar arrival orchestrated with intent and intelligence. T-minus 64 hours to the first atmospheric entry, instruments worldwide were recording anomalies that should not exist. The second law of thermodynamics, the principle dictating that systems move from order to disorder, was being blatantly violated. Comet fragments should tumble and scatter, yet 3-2 Atlas clones maintained absolute order. The James Webb Space Telescope confirmed that each fragment's surface temperature was dropping below the background radiation of space. This requires active cooling, an energy-intensive process unimaginable in natural celestial bodies. Theoretical physics offers one possible explanation: entropic propulsion. These fragments may be converting internal energy directly into kinetic motion, harvesting vacuum energy from the one-dimensional quantum foam. Essentially, they are surfing space-time itself, using Earth's gravitational gradient as a guide, moving at unimaginable speeds without producing heat. Its mastery over the laws of the universe, a demonstration of Type II civilization engineering. Their geometric array deepens the mystery. Space is chaotic. Celestial bodies face the n-body problem, where the gravitational influence of nearby planets creates unpredictable motion. Maintaining a rigid 5-0-point grid across millions of miles would normally require constant thrust corrections. Yet, ESA's Gaia mission detected no chemical exhaust, no ion traces, just perfect stability. The fragments appear to be weaving a synthetic gravitational web, acting as a single, distributed instrument in space. When the first fragments entered Earth's upper exosphere over the Pacific, they defied the rules of atmospheric entry. High-speed objects should ignite a plasma sheath, producing blinding heat and blocking signals. But the Chandra X-ray Observatory recorded a laminar flow, as if the fragments were gently parting air molecules rather than colliding with them. This implies a localized high-intensity magnetic shield repelling the atmosphere itself. This was no crash landing, it was surgical insertion. And then the question became unavoidable: why 50 fragments? Each is positioned over a major tectonic triple junction where Earth's plates converge. Their 400,000-ton mass exerts subtle gravitational influence. The potential exists to manipulate seismic activity, modulate crustal stress, or even act as planetary regulators. The fragments hover with microscopic precision, undetectable to the naked eye, yet capable of altering the Earth's internal equilibrium. Meanwhile, the IceCube Neutrino Observatory confirmed a shift in transmissions. The initial counting pulses evolved into mapping signals, scanning Earth's interior. The fragments were no longer just observers, they were analyzing our planet in detail, probing its core and crust with neutrino tomography. Humanity had crossed a threshold. The anomaly was no longer external, it had integrated with Earth itself. The fragments were not simply in orbit, they were interacting with our planet's natural systems, turning the ionosphere into a planetary-scale antenna, reading Earth as a living instrument. We were witnessing a type of planetary engineering previously only theorized in the most advanced stages of Type II civilizations. The implications were staggering. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't exploration. This was surveillance, control, and a display of capability that made humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos suddenly terrifyingly small. As the hours ticked down, the true scale of this operation became undeniable. The 50 fragments of 3-0 Atlas had transitioned from distant anomalies into a structured atmospheric presence. They were no longer objects in space. They had become a planetary system, unto themselves a rigid, geometric array hovering precisely above the Earth's surface. Observatories worldwide confirmed the impossible. Each fragment had synchronized with the others, forming a coherent, invisible lattice over the entire planet. Every continent, every tectonic boundary fell under their silent surveillance. The lead fragment, Probe Alpha, had targeted the IceCube Neutrino Observatory months in advance, sending high-bandwidth pulses that passed unimpeded through Earth itself. Unlike electromagnetic signals, neutrinos cannot be blocked or absorbed. By speaking in this medium, the fragments bypassed all our defenses, satellites, radio towers, even the planet's magnetic field. This wasn't mere communication, it was a direct interface with the Earth's most sensitive detectors, a bypass of every technological barrier humanity had erected to observe the cosmos. At 2,200 UTC, the fragments completed the final leg of their descent. But this wasn't a landing, it was a coupling event. Instruments recorded a localized surge in neutrino flux at IceCube, originating not from space, but from within the planet itself. Using neutrino tomography, these fragments were now scanning the Earth's interior at resolutions that made the best seismic instruments seem rudimentary. They were reading the planet like a living blueprint, mapping every fault line, every mantle current, every gravitational anomaly. Hovering at exactly 100 kilometers, the Kármán line, they had positioned themselves perfectly, low enough to interact with the ionosphere, yet high enough to avoid atmospheric friction. In electromagnetic terms, the ionosphere is a conductive shell surrounding the planet. By linking into this system, the fragments effectively transformed the entire atmosphere into a planetary scale antenna. This wasn't observation alone. It was control, a digital integration with the very systems that maintain life on Earth. The geopolitical ramifications hit immediately. Each fragment was positioned over a major tectonic fault or triple junction. Subtle gravitational manipulation from their combined mass could theoretically trigger or suppress seismic activity. Their potential influence was global, instantaneous, and precise. The fragments were no longer passive visitors, they had become planetary regulators. Then came the most disturbing discovery. The 1-1-second pulses, previously counting down like a cosmic clock, had stopped. They were replaced by a continuous low-frequency hum, perfectly aligned with the Earth's natural resonant frequency of 7.83 Hz, the so-called Schumann resonance. In effect, 3-2 Atlas had found the planet's heartbeat and synchronized with it. It wasn't merely observing Earth, it was speaking the same language, vibrating in perfect phase with the pulse of our world. Humanity now faced an unprecedented reality. These fragments were not just monitoring us, they were interacting with the planet's fundamental systems. They had turned the Earth itself into an instrument, with every tectonic and electromagnetic response under their silent, omnipresent influence. The symphony of strings had become something far more profound, a planetary, scale performance, and humanity was now part of the orchestra, whether we liked it or not. By this point, the global scientific community was paralyzed. The fragments weren't visible to the naked eye, yet their presence dominated every sensor, every telescope, and every gravitational reading. The combination of neutrino mapping, geomagnetic integration, and gravitational stabilization painted a single, unavoidable truth. Humanity had become a monitored species. The interstellar visitors were no longer distant observers, they were in direct interaction with our planet, controlling and reading Earth in ways previously reserved for Type II civilizations in theoretical physics. The fragment's positioning above tectonic triple junctions was more than coincidental. Each fragment had the potential to manipulate crustal stress at a microscopic scale, altering seismic activity across entire regions. The implications were staggering. With 50 city block-size masses distributed evenly over the globe, 3-2 Atlas had effectively created a planetary-scale control network. By pulsing their gravitational influence in unison, they could modulate the stress on Earth's crust. Humanity had not simply encountered an anomaly, we had been introduced to the most precise planetary engineering system ever conceived. Simultaneously, their interaction with the ionosphere transformed the atmosphere into a global antenna. By plugging into this conductive shell, the fragments could read electromagnetic signals worldwide, effectively eavesdropping on our planet's communications, weather systems, and even electrical infrastructure. They were a planetary-scale digital interface integrating seamlessly with Earth while remaining invisible to conventional observation. Even more chilling was the realization that these fragments were in resonance with the planet itself. The continuous low-frequency hum matched the Earth's Schumann resonance, a global heartbeat present in the ionosphere and throughout the biosphere. By synchronizing to this frequency, the fragments achieved phase lock, aligning with the natural vibrations of the planet. The implications are profound. These objects weren't merely passive observers, they were now interacting with the Earth as a single, living system. Governments scrambled, but the technology involved was beyond comprehension. Any attempt to physically disrupt the fragments would be futile. They exhibited zero thermal exhaust, zero chemical propulsion, and appeared to utilize quantum vacuum thrusters or advanced gravitational manipulation. Standard methods of interference missiles, lasers, or electromagnetic disruption would fail. Humanity's standard defenses were obsolete. By now, the symphony of strings had entered its next movement. The 50 fragments were no longer counting, they were mapping, scanning, and observing every detail of the planet. Their presence represented a new epoch. Humanity's world was being read and monitored in real time, and the scale of their surveillance was total. The interstellar visitors were no longer out there. They were here, integrated with the planet, and their intent remained inscrutable. The question that haunted the scientific community was simple but terrifying. Why 50? The arrangement was too precise to be coincidence. Each fragment's position and mass allowed for manipulation of both the tectonic plates and electromagnetic systems simultaneously. From a probability standpoint, the odds of this distribution occurring naturally are virtually zero. What humanity was witnessing wasn't observation, it was planetary-level orchestration. And yet, despite the fear, one fact became undeniable. This was not a hostile attack in the conventional sense. These objects weren't colliding, exploding, or destroying. They were conducting a calculated, surgical interaction with the planet, as if performing an experiment or perhaps preparing Earth for the next stage of its evolution under the watchful eye of a Type II intelligence. As the hours unfolded, it became clear that the 50 fragments of 3-2 Atlas were no longer mere observers, they had become an active interface with the Earth itself. The IceCube Neutrino Observatory confirmed that the fragments' pulses had shifted from counting to mapping, scanning the planet's interior with unprecedented precision. They were effectively performing a high-resolution neutrino tomography, probing the crust, mantle, and core. The Earth had become a living laboratory, and we were both subjects and spectators in a process we barely understood. The fragments hovered at exactly 100 kilometers, the Kármán line, the edge of space. At this altitude, they could interact with the ionosphere without succumbing to atmospheric drag. By doing so, they had transformed the entire atmosphere into a planetary-scale antenna. Every electrical system, every natural electromagnetic rhythm, even the global communications network, was potentially accessible to these objects. Humanity had inadvertently handed over the keys to the planet's electrical and geomagnetic systems without firing a single shot. Yet their influence extended beyond the electromagnetic. Each fragment, positioned above a major tectonic triple junction, exerted a microscopic gravitational pull on the crust below. Theoretical models suggested that by pulsing in unison, these fragments could modulate seismic activity across the globe, triggering or suppressing earthquakes with surgical precision. This was not science fiction. The fragments had the potential to act as planetary regulators, controlling the dynamics of Earth's crust in real time. The implications for geopolitics, resource stability, and human civilization were staggering. Despite their extraordinary presence, the fragments remained invisible to the naked eye. There was no heat signature, no exhaust plume, no atmospheric turbulence. Observatories recorded a laminar flow as the fragments descended, an effect suggesting the use of a high-intensity magnetic shield repelling air molecules, allowing them to move silently and without friction. This was not a crash landing, it was a surgical insertion, an orchestration of cosmic precision. And then came the most profound realization: the fragments were in resonance with the Earth itself. The continuous low-frequency hum matched the planet's natural Schumann resonance at 7.83 Hz. 3. 2. Atlas had achieved phase lock with the Earth, speaking in the same vibrational language as the planet itself. Every tectonic pulse, every atmospheric oscillation, and every geomagnetic wave became part of a synchronized system. Humanity was no longer an independent force on Earth. It had become a component in a planetary-scale symphony conducted by interstellar intelligence. The question of intent remained unanswered. Were these fragments a shield, a safeguard, or a subtle instrument of control? Was this the first act of planetary stewardship, or a silent warning from a civilization far beyond our comprehension? Whatever the answer, one fact was undeniable: Earth was being observed, studied, and influenced at a level previously thought impossible, and we were witnessing the dawn of a new era of interstellar interaction. By now, the global scientific community and governments were forced to confront the unthinkable. These fragments weren't just anomalies, they were sentinels, sentinel probes conducting a full planetary assessment. Their presence redefined the limits of human understanding, demonstrating technology and coordination that could only belong to a civilization far beyond our own. This was Type 2 engineering in action, integrating planetary physics, gravitation, and electromagnetic systems into a single operational design. The 50 fragments maintained their positions with unwavering precision, their combined influence effectively turning Earth into a monitored, responsive organism. From the ionosphere to the core, every system was under observation, every signal tracked. They were no longer visitors, they were co-inhabitants of our planet's geophysical and electromagnetic space. Their methodology was surgical, silent, and absolute. As the fragments settled into their final positions, the IceCube Neutrino Observatory recorded a continuous neutrino flux mapping the interior of Earth with clarity unmatched by any human technology. The planet itself had become a sensor grid, and these interstellar instruments had full access. Their synchronization with the Earth's natural frequencies suggested that they weren't merely observing, they were communicating, understanding, and perhaps even guiding the evolution of planetary processes. Humanity faced a choice. These sentinels could be viewed as a threat or as an unprecedented opportunity to understand and engage with a higher form of intelligence. The clock had reached T-0. The symphony had begun its first movement, and we were no longer in isolation. Our planet was now part of a larger, interstellar system, monitored and potentially guided by intelligence that operates on a scale we are only beginning to comprehend. The implications are profound. We are standing on the threshold of a new era, one in which humanity's actions and understanding will be tested by forces far beyond our current capabilities. The 50 fragments of 3-2 Atlas are more than cosmic anomalies. They are a message, a mechanism, and perhaps a mirror reflecting the limits of our own knowledge. The universe has found a way to make us aware of its scale, and the question now is, will we rise to meet it? As the world watches, every telescope, every sensor, and every observatory is now part of a collective observation of Earth itself. The human era of unobserved isolation has ended. The sentinel has arrived, the symphony has begun, and the future of our species is now intertwined with the orchestration of a civilization beyond the stars. If you want to witness the unfolding of this extraordinary event and understand the science, implications, and hidden signals behind 3-2 Atlas, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and join us as we explore the mind of the cosmos. The symphony of strings is playing, and humanity is listening.